for joining me. We are going to have an awesome discussion today on something that is honestly pretty prevalent in my life, and it's all about mental health and exercise. We're going to go over a article written by the Mintel Report, basically on mental health being the top reason that Americans are currently exercising. And this is kind of a huge revelation, I guess I should say, not for me particularly, but it's something I wanted to bring up. So today we're going to talk about just mental health in general when it comes to exercise, what's currently motivating people to exercise. We're even going to get on a discussion on home gyms versus traditional gyms, and if people are going to, stick with their home gyms, and if traditional gyms and, your normal gym you go to is going to end up being closed at some point. So we're going to actually kind of touch on quite a few different topics. And then we're also going to talk about being a parent and why you should exercise as a parent. And as you'll see, this kind of all will cascade into a bunch of different things coming back to mental health. So you'll see shortly why we're actually going to discuss on those things. But to begin, so mental health. Mental health is the top reason Americans exercise per Mintel Report. If you're not familiar, Mintel Report, it's basically just a large consumer reporting base that gets a bunch of data together from numerous different sources, and they ran a study on specifically Americans during the time shortly after the pandemic. So this article is actually from April 14th, 2022. When it was written, but I think it's still extremely prevalent and actually makes a lot of sense moving into today. So the first start of our little podcast here, we're going to talk about what's motivating people to work out in 2023, or at least what I think people will be doing in 2023. This might surprise you. So this was, again, from the Mintel Report. It said that at the time of this report, statistics say that 78% of exercisers are actually working out for their well-being, while 76% of exercisers report working out for their physical well-being. So this is kind of a surprising thing, because normally people will think of, oh, I'm going to go work out to look better. A lot of people want to feel better too and get better self-confidence, but most people are in it to lose some weight, improve their body composition, build some muscle, all these different things. But at least from the statistic, it says that a lot more people, specifically 2% of more people are going to start getting into physical activity and exercising because it can improve your mental health. Yeah, quick recount there from that first little bit. What is motivating people to work out in 2023? 78% of exercisers were working out for their emotional well-being, while 76% of exercisers report working out for their physical well-being. So a little more people are focused on the mental aspect of this, which is a huge part. And this could be kind of one of the positives from the pandemic, at least from my eyes. So there was a huge lack of physical activity during the pandemic itself, and even like light physical activity was completely gone. For a lot of people who may have been going out to the grocery store, that could have been their only source of physical activity. Maybe going to the mailbox every day and getting stuff from there, that might have even dwindled down because they weren't ordering as much stuff. Just going out and browsing at a local bookstore. All these little things that might even be a very small source of physical activity for people, that could be a huge amount of physical activity lost in their life. So taking out even these small things of physical activity, people realize that, man, I don't feel as good. The mental burden of physical activity was realized. And for kind of a perspective on this, I want to ask, how do you feel after sitting on the couch, sitting and really just doing anything? You could be scrolling on the phone, you could just be staring at the wall. How do you feel? Likely not full of that much energy. Likely like you just want to completely sit there and be a couch potato, right? Now, how do you feel after a light walk? How do you feel after getting up and going up and down the stairs? Maybe a little tired, maybe a little build up in some of that tiredness. But for the most part, a lot of people feel better, specifically with their mood and their mental health. So, again, with those light sources of activity completely gone, this can create a huge overall issue. So, there was a huge change in focus, as we can see. People are realizing the mental health benefits of exercise. In this Mintel report, 50% of people on the Mintel's COVID-19 tracker, which again is another statistic, running statistic poll through the pandemic from Mintel, it said 50% of people changed their outlook on exercising and mental health. And specifically, it actually just made them think a little differently about mental health, which, again, we go back to why this might be a positive of the pandemic and exercising in public health. If people are thinking about their mental health more and they're thinking of how important it is, whether or not this was internally, something where I want to make a change to improve my life, or externally, as in they see how badly the world can get if you don't take care of your mental health, I think it really doesn't matter sometimes. Sometimes when people are just getting into health and fitness, you need some type of big push. You need some big type of driving factor to get them first start going. And this pandemic can change a lot of people in regards to that. So what can we learn from the pandemic and mental health? Obviously, the severity of mental health. There was so many people, specifically older adults and people who were isolated, who honestly just died because of the isolation. I can't put an exact pin on this, but I've worked with a lot of older adults who they lose hope very quickly when they're on their own and not just around people. And this happened to a lot of people. So there's a huge severity of mental health. And I think the kind of stigma behind mental health is going down a lot, especially since the pandemic. What else can we learn from the pandemic and the mental health crisis? Potential benefits of physical activity. We notice how not as much physical activity can make quite a big detriment on your physical health. And at the same time, we also can notice what actually being physically active can do for you too. So two kind of big things there. And then also the long-term benefits of not being physically active, specifically on your mental and physical health. There's also some internal reasons to exercise. So, and we're actually going to address those later in the video. But yeah, so these are a few things we can learn that can hopefully move us forward in our mental health discussion. So far, make sure to like the video. The next portion of this, we're actually going to talk about mental health and exercise in particular. So much less other statistics, but actually, like, what can mental health do, or specifically, what can exercise do on mental health? And can we really use exercise as a way to cure mental health? So that's going to be the next portion of this. And what I'll first start off and say is that there is a clear link between exercise and mental health. A lot of individuals who've dealt with depression, dealt with anxiety, dealt with all these different things have noticed a very good positive increase in their overall feelings of well-being with exercise. But at the same time, even with this understanding that people who are exercising likely have improved mental health, the links and mechanisms behind this are still not fully understood. So that's kind of the tough thing about this, is that we know it does help your mental health, but entirely why, that's kind of still up in the air. But from what we're looking at, exercise, there's a whole host of mental health benefits. One of the best things that it can do is it releases endorphins. So if you go to the gym, do a little bit of workout, it's going to release these things called endorphins, which are basically feel-good hormones, which after you're done working out, it makes you feel good. Simple as that. It improves your mood. It makes you feel a little bit better. So this is one of the things I kind of drive when I'm not feeling like working out. Specifically, I know afterwards, I'm going to get those endorphins and I'm going to feel so much better afterwards. So that's a little bit of a push to hopefully get people into the gym and working out. So the next thing, it can take your mind off worries. We are often in the society of constantly thinking about the next thing, being anxious, all these different things. If you're taking a little bit of time to actually go to the gym, work out a little bit, and simply just focus on yourself and what you're doing at that moment, it's going to take your mind off a lot of different worries. I've had so many circumstances in my life where I've been stressed out about work, or actually I had a funeral, I had a death in the family, and I didn't go in and kill myself during my workout, but I did get some light physical activity. I did go in and it gave me some time to kind of decompress, take my mind off things, and it's really just a good coping tool that you can use if you are stressed out about things. Another additional benefit of exercising on mental health is this aspect of improved confidence. So you gain a lot of confidence from exercise, and you're probably thinking like, okay, what does that really mean? Well, one of the things I've noticed with working out, specifically with older adults, is when I start to do movements with them, I start to teach them how to squat, I teach them how to do different upper body exercises, I help them walk better. They gain confidence and some self-efficacy in the gym, in those activities, and then it can also translate into the outer world. Maybe it's a physical activity, but how many times, I know for myself, I've started being physically active and I just pick myself up better. Whether I've lost weight or I just have that improved mood we talked about, you just feel a lot better about yourself and what you're doing outside the world. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I haven't seen a lot of research on this, but I've noticed it very anecdotally and personally that exercising when it comes to mental health can improve your confidence levels greatly. As we talked about earlier, coping mechanisms are another huge thing that we can get from exercising. So when you are angry, when you are having any type of stress, but specifically we're talking about anger in this instance, exercise is a great way to get out that anger. And you might be thinking, shouldn't you just like feel the pain, control it, do your best to understand why it's coming? Well, that is something you want to do when it comes to coping mechanisms, but at the same time, I would much rather have somebody go work out versus have them drink alcohol to deal with their anger issues. So it's a good source of a coping mechanism. Another thing we'll talk about earlier in kind of the home gym versus traditional gym argument is social interaction. So a huge benefit of exercising is actually social interaction. So a lot of times people will go to the gym for exercise classes. I know my mom specifically, she actually teaches a few classes and I teach some classes as well. And it's a huge source of community and kind of bonding around that exercise and physical activity, which, as we know, if you are around people and you are talking to people and part of a community, you have much better mental health outcomes than individuals who don't. Also, too, and I'll probably mention this later again in the podcast, but I even go to the gym to exercise for mental health and social interaction, even though I don't really socialize. So how I do this is just being around people and getting out in the world, and even just asking people, hey, how many sets you have left? And just being around other people is still a way that I get out to the gym, even though I don't do these different exercise classes. So it's kind of something that anyone can activity then, right? So physical activity is just spontaneous movement throughout the day. It's not particularly planned. And kind of the way I like to describe this is you can go to the gym and you're going to be physically active when you're at the gym, but if you're just moving around your house, if you are picking up groceries from the store and bringing them in, that's physical activity, but it's not exercise. Exercise is planned, right? It's I'm going to take time out of the day to go be physically active. The ACSM guidelines for physical activity is 150 minutes of moderate cardio, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity, and of course 2 times a week of resistance training. Also, I am gonna kind of pair in this that yoga and stretching can be relaxing and very therapeutic, but it's not actually part of the exercise guidelines. But when we're talking about mental health benefits of exercise, I think not adding yoga to this as a part of it is kind of, I should say, I'd be remiss if I didn't add yoga in there, because I do chair yoga classes with seniors, and I've even done some regular yoga classes, and I feel great afterwards. Maybe it's not as physically hard, but it does kind of calm my mind, calm myself mentally, which is a great aspect as well. But also to just finding stuff you enjoy, enjoyable workouts, try to limit the overall barriers and things that are causing issues in your life. So if you always notice that, hey, every time I go out with this friend, I end up not going on my exercise routine, they make me drink a lot, it might be a good idea to try to kind of shift around your friends and maybe even rethink certain friendships. This is just an example that comes to mind first off, but trying to shift your life to make it as advantageous as possible for being physically active. Get some support from others. That'll help not only for the immediate to get you to do there, but you'll build some social connection. Schedule it in to your life, and then don't beat yourself up when you don't get that physical activity. This can actually worsen your anxiety and cause things to get worse for you. And obviously, when we're talking about mental health and exercise, the whole reason we're doing it is to try to be more mindful, improve our overall capability for our brain. And speaking of brain, next portion, we're going to talk about exercise and dementia. So this is specifically, if you're not familiar with dementia, it's kind of like a memory-related issue. It's a general memory-related issue. Alzheimer's is kind of under this category, but we're just going to talk briefly about it because I think it's something that's super cool. So to start out, we're going to talk about the study. It was a study done in Wales where 2,000 Wales men around 35 years old were kind of taken under these 5 different categories. The categories was if they exercised regularly, if they didn't smoke, if they had moderate alcohol intake, and if they had a healthy body weight and a healthy diet. Obviously, healthy diet can mean a lot of different things. Moderate alcohol intake can mean a lot of different things, and regular exercise can mean a lot of different things. So when I was getting this information from the Mintel report, which is linked down below if you did want to check that out, it didn't say exactly what the different criteria was. But the interesting thing about this is that exercise, out of all those other categories, was actually the greatest risk reduction for dementia in these individuals. And they were actually, I believe it was about 20 years that they were looked at in this study, 20 years. So that's a long time to look through somebody, and their chances of getting dementia went down greatly, specifically from the ones who had that regular exercise. In addition to this, if those same individuals had 4 out of the 5 criteria, as in if they were a regular exerciser, a non-smoker, drank moderately, had a healthy body weight and a healthy diet, if they had 4 out of 5 of those, they reduced the risk of developing dementia by 60%, which is honestly staggering. One of the big things when it comes to dementia and brain health is this idea of aerobic activity, that basically increasing that blood flow throughout your entire body. And specifically, you're going to bring it up to your head more. Better blood flow to your head means more nutrients to your head, more oxygen to your head, which is a huge part of keeping your brain cells alive. Aerobic activity shows also some increases in your hippocampus size in exercisers. And if you're not familiar, your hippocampus is basically where you develop memory and learning. So it's a really important thing when we're talking about dementia, Alzheimer's, all these different related issues. If you're exercising, it increases a literal part of your brain that helps with memory. Of course, it's going to improve your overall capability, specifically when we're talking about memory and learning. You know, one of the things, as we talked about earlier in the podcast, is that they're kind of still developing in mechanisms from this. So they don't know entirely what's going on, but as we discussed, that increased blood flow to the brain will help tremendously. Blood brings nutrients. Nutrients just helps to give increased health and function to every single organism in the body, specifically cells in this case. And a lot of the research is done or has been done in aerobic activity, although I would guess that there probably is some benefits from resistance training, maybe a little bit from flexibility work. Just being physically active in general, I think, could help. But since aerobic activity is so highly cardiovascular, and there's a lot of blood flow going on through your whole body, I think that's why it's typically studied and done. So cool stuff there when it comes to exercise and dementia. If you want to improve your memory, improve your brain health, exercise is a great way to do that, and specifically in reducing the chances of developing dementia. So this next part, we're going to talk about the rise of home gyms. During the pandemic, there was a huge increase in home gyms from everyone, mainly because gyms were closing down. So we're going to talk about will home gyms actually eliminate the need for regular gyms in 2023? And this is something that ultimately I think is really, it's a fun topic to talk about, and you'll notice how it kind of ties into mental health in a second. But the gym, let's look at the statistics here. So this is still from the Mintel report, as we talked about. That's linked below. But 15% of people in this study said that digital fitness actually eliminates the needs for gyms entirely. So that's actually kind of a large amount if you think about it. 15% of people. So if there's 100 people, 15 of them think that digital fitness, as in going on to YouTube for workouts, Apple workouts, all these different things, completely eliminates the need ultimately for any type of gym. So just something interesting to note. But at the same time, 29% also said that they like being a member of a health club, like being a member of the gym. And why this is, and again, we talked about earlier from the socialization aspect of the gym is much more than your physical health. As in, you go there maybe for some socialization. Myself personally, I don't really socialize, but I like getting out into the world and just being around human beings. If you work from home, especially too, it might seem like a good idea to get a home gym, which I highly would recommend starting to purchase equipment to get that stuff. But at the same time, if you work at home all day, what are you doing when you're working out? You're going right back down to your home to work out. Having that separation of work and actually going out into the world is really important for a lot of people, specifically when it comes to mental health. So it just gives you a little bit of time outside of your home. And also, it might be easier to stick to routines too. If you are used to going to the gym after you work out, or after you get off work, I should say, and you just go there right away, you spend 30 minutes there, do some cardio, do some weights, and then you go home, and it's just kind of part of your ingrained life. It could be easier for people just to stick with that and not really think about, oh, now I need to motivate myself to work out at home. It's kind of a whole other aspect to it. As I talked about earlier, from personal experience, I'm kind of naturally introverted, so I go to the gym not really to go and socialize. Occasionally I do go to see friends, so there can be some mental health benefits there, but I also like doing it just to get out of the home. I work from home, so getting out into the world and just seeing some people is huge for me, being around humans. And I will say with that though, my home gym does save me a lot of time. I have a pretty nice home gym, so I use that as a time saver. But if I have a lot of time to buffer and spend on going to the gym, I absolutely will, because it's nice getting out into the world. And this is a huge reason why I think that traditional gyms will stay. You can't beat that intimacy of just being around other people, even if you're not doing anything. It's kind of like the atmosphere of drinking coffee at home in your favorite chair, which is nice, and going to a coffee shop. Why is it so much more pleasurable? Well, there's music, there's other people around, the smells are different, the atmosphere is different. You're out in a completely different environment, which I think is, a good thing for for traditional gyms actually staying. So home gyms, are they here to stay? Yes. I think a lot more people are going to start investing in home gyms. And if you haven't already, just get a set of dumbbells, just get a yoga mat, get it small. I started out actually in the pandemic buying, I had a barbell and weights. That was it. And since then, I ended up getting an exercise bike. I ended up getting a rowing machine. I got a different power rack. I've built up over time, so I have these tools at home. If I'm ever strapped for time and need a quick workout, I can just work out at home. Or if I want that social benefit of going to the gym, I can do that as well. So if you're enjoying the video so far, please consider liking the video. It really helps me out a lot. And the next actual portion of this, as we're still kind of talking again about that mental health aspect of people's exercise patterns since the pandemic, and specifically, are more people active since the pandemic? I think this was something that a lot of people were really waiting to see. Is, okay, there's a lot of people who started working out more because they noticed they were gaining some weight from being at home a lot. And there was also a lot of people that noticed they don't feel as good mentally from being at home all the time. So they may have had that extra free time, especially if there was job layoffs during the pandemic. There was way more free time to exercise specifically. But after that, have they stuck with their goals? And from the Mintel report, we're going to look at again, 36% of consumers are actually working out more regularly than before the pandemic. So 29% over the age of 55 are actually working out more consistently too. And this is something we'll talk about specifically with older adults and working out and the importance of them to work out. Americans are exercising more in general. This is a great thing. So in 2020, 67%, of exercisers from this study recognized that they were doing it once a week. Since the pandemic in 2021, that's when the really, really cool thing to note. So why are people changing, generally speaking? I think people are changing because the shocking events of the overall pandemic have led to them reconsidering their life. And this has happened in a lot of aspects of life. So this has happened from financial things, where people are like stuck in a job they don't like, and they realize like, oh, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I think that same thing is kind of coming back to our health, and why people are looking for, especially after the pandemic, as a kind of jumpstart, as a source of motivation to get them into working out. Priorities in their health and life. Why are people changing? I think another big thing too for why people are changing their health patterns quite a bit, as we just discussed, is that their priorities and specifically the people around them have changed. They realize, like, if I can't be healthy for myself, if I can't do this for myself, it's hard to be healthier for others. So I think that's another huge thing. Will these changes last? That's to be determined. I feel like they will likely drop a little bit, but motivation always drops after these things happen. I think the older generations will definitely start embracing physical activity more, and we'll talk about that actually in a second, on why I think seniors should be working out right now if you not currently are. But from this pandemic, they saw that, a lot of the people who were affected from it were older, but not just people who are older, people who had diabetes, heart disease, all these other comorbidities. They developed that later down the road. So a huge, interesting thing to mention there. Okay, so, and then exercise habits may improve over time. And I'm hoping, again, as we talked about earlier, that this is because people realize it's not that bad. It's not that bad, and you can get a lot of benefit from just a small amount of physical activity. If you're liking this video so far, please consider subscribing to the channel for more videos on improving your health and keeping you informed about the health, fitness, and gym industry, regardless of your current abilities. And the next thing we're going to dive into is senior fitness in 2023. Should older adults still work out? It's something that I work with quite a bit in my life. So older adults are usually neglected in the fitness industry, whether people are scared to work with them or they, just feel like they don't need to, like, oh, they live their life, they're good. If they neglected their health, it's on them. But we really need people that care about working with seniors, and it's a priority. And the priority is there because people are living a lot longer. And even though people are living a lot longer, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're living better. You could take somebody who's 80 years old and has taken care of their health their entire life, and guess what? They're probably going to feel a lot better. They're going to move a lot better through life. They're going to have better mental health versus somebody who's 80 and hasn't taken care of their body. Guess what? They're not going to feel as good. They're going to feel much worse, actually. So this brings up this idea of biological versus chronological age. So biologically, you could be aging at a rate that is far slower than somebody else. So that same example, somebody who's 80 and has taken care of themselves their entire life, their biological age might be like 60, 50. It's hard to put exact numbers on this, but that's kind of a perspective. In addition to this, so when we talk about then chronological age, it's kind of this different thing of, they're still the same age, but biologically they're completely different. So this is why I think if you're a senior, or if you know somebody who's a senior and just starting out in the workouts in 2023, high priority. Again, seniors noticed from COVID that there was a large amount of complications from being overweight, having heart disease, all these other comorbidities. If you are somebody who wasn't particularly concerned about these aspects of your fitness before COVID made you realize that, hey, it's probably not the best idea for me to just neglect my health up until this point. So a lot of seniors realize also too from the pandemic, and hopefully moving into 2023, that you can prevent a lot of these poor health outcomes from numerous different things. The seniors that I work with, I always do some balance exercise with them. I do some resistance training with them. I do a little bit of cardio. I try to do it holistically, and this is the same for everyone, but these very small things that you can be doing consistently, hopefully every single day, can lead to a huge decrease in all of these bad outcomes, which, God forbid, if we have another pandemic at some point, you'll be much healthier, much better off down the road. One of the also biggest things too with seniors working out, and why all seniors should be working out right now, and again, if you're watching this and you're not a senior but you know somebody who's an older adult, I'm sure we all do, you need to start convincing them to do this. One of the biggest things for seniors is decreasing their lifetime disability. So there's an older adult I used to work with who she actually sat in she had a chair. She wasn't in a wheelchair initially, but she was pretty active. She used a walker to get around, and she ended up fracturing her entire lower body. So her hip, her leg, everything was completely fractured. And because of this, it led to her being basically permanently disabled for the rest of her life. She had to go through a wheelchair everywhere. She needed assistance everywhere. So these can be avoided in large part from being consistently physically active. And again, why I think, especially for seniors in 2023, working out for them is particularly important. I know a lot of this original discussion was about mental health, but I wanted to tie this into, and if you are getting some value from this, please consider liking the video. The next portion we're going to talk about is going to still be along the lines of mental health and why it's important, but exercise and parenting, and honestly, why all parents should consider exercising. This is something that I'm passionate about. I'm actually not a parent, but I do have a little brother who's 13 now, and I honestly look at myself as a parent to him. So exercising and parenting. So during the pandemic, these are kind of some cool statistics from the Mintel report. Again, that's linked in the description if you want to check that out. During the pandemic, 33% of dads with children under 18 exercise daily. So that's 1 in every 3 dads were exercising during the pandemic. 22% of dads without children didn't. So that's a huge drop off. That's almost, if we're talking about like 2 out of 10 people weren't exercising versus 3 out of 10, that's a huge difference. So 33% of dads, 1 in every 3rd dad was exercising if they had a child under 18. So that's a really cool statistic. I like that. These are the reasons for why parents were exercising in 2023 specifically, or not 2023, during the pandemic. They were doing it for a mood boost. That was kind of one of the big things. So 40% of parents who had a child 18 or under were exercising for a boost in mood, while 34% of people who weren't parents were exercising. So again, it kind of shows you this interesting thing of like, okay, why are parents more apt to actually be physically active, and specifically during the pandemic? Why are they doing it? This isn't something I've considered very often, but I have some thoughts at the end of this we'll go into. 39% of parents who had or 39% of people who were parents, as in they had a kid who was 18 or under, did it because they wanted extra time for themselves, while 35% of non-parents were doing it. And what can we learn from all this? And I think one of the biggest things that we can learn is that parents want to be a role model for their kids. They want to be specifically healthier for their kids, and they want to provide for them. They want to be more energetic. They want to live better and longer for them. They want to try to outlive their kids. You know, I think back to my grandfather. My grandfather died when he was 55, and my mom is outliving him. And I think that's something that most people likely want to avoid having happening in their life, hopefully. They want to be good role models too. If you can show your kid that, hey, I'm exercising and you can do it too, you should do it too, that's going to be a good push for them to be physically active as well. So they want to be good role models, show them how we can do good things. During the pandemic specifically, having exercise as a family activity was something huge. I know for myself, I got out and took so many different walks with my family throughout the day, made us feel better. So this is a big reason why I think families in particularly, and specifically parents, were actually exercising during the pandemic, and hopefully moving forward, it'll be another activity. One of the fun things I did during the pandemic, I actually had a small weight set, and I would take my little brother, who I think he was like 10, 11 at the time, and my mom, and we would just do a little group workout downstairs in our basement. Would we have normally done that? Probably not. If we weren't completely isolated, we wouldn't have gotten that chance to actually come together and do it. So it's kind of a cool thing that came from the pandemic. And we talked about another reason, why parents are likely exercising more. They want to make sure that they're living longer than their kids. That's again, what I just talked about with my grandfather and my mom. My grandfather died like 10 years ago. My mom still got probably 30, 40 years left. She takes care of her health. She's very diligent in these things, and I'm sure ideally she wants to outlive me too. And if I ever have a kid, that's going to be a very primary driving source. I really don't want a kid to deal with the burden of not having a parent. So that can be a few sources of good motivation if you are a parent and considering working out in 2023. Another reason why I think parents are more apt to working out in 2023 is understanding the importance of mental health. They get a boost in mood specifically. So, maybe they're not feeling too good from work, or I've got to pick up the kids, all these things. Giving yourself just 20 to 30 minutes of time to exercise at home, maybe do a short workout, or even go to the gym and do something is going to benefit you tremendously and is going to make you feel a lot better just from that immediate mood boost. You can also build some good self-esteem for yourself long term and down the road. And if you do have any kids, you're obviously going to want to instill that self-confidence and self-efficacy in them. So again, kind of going back to that role model aspect. And I think something that often is kind of an elephant in the room when it comes to parents working out is to just having a life outside of being a parent. And I think that's super important for your kid to see that, hey, I love you dearly, but I'm still going to go do something for my physical health, my mental health, that's going to help me be a better parent to you. Kind of decompressing, taking some time away. We all need alone time to do different things, and it's no difference. So if you enjoyed that part of the video, please consider liking the video. It helps spread this to others. Thank you so much for watching. So the last thing that we're actually going to talk about now, why 2023 is the best year to start working out at the gym. And this is going to be for beginners, people who have worked out before but are just starting back in their workouts. Why is right now the best time to start working out? So this is from the Mintel report, which again is linked in the description if you want to check that out. But Rebecca Waters, an associate director of the household and health sector for Mintel, said that a lot more brands, specifically gyms, are starting to become more inclusive. So if you normally go to the gym and think of like a meathead just working out, and you think of those big hunky people, it's going to be hopefully pushing towards a more inclusive environment for everyone, specifically beginners just starting and all these different individuals. I think this is a huge thing because a lot of people are often intimidated when you first go out to the gym and you don't know what to do. There's all these people there. Are they looking at me? Are they judging me? I really don't know. But at the end of the day, if at least what Rebecca Waters is saying in this article is that gyms are becoming more inclusive. So that is a great reason to start working out literally today. If you haven't already. Something you always talk about, like what's the best day to work out? Well, it was yesterday. The next best day is literally today. So I think that's a huge thing. There is kind of an issue with gyms becoming too welcoming though, and I'll use Planet Fitness as an example. So Planet Fitness, if you're not aware, it's a very a famous gym, very cheap actually. If you only have $10 a month, I believe that's their current going rate and membership. So only $10 a month to work out at Planet Fitness. The thing about Planet Fitness, it's called a inclusive gym, and basically one of the ways they do this is with a lunk alarm. So if you grunt too loud or talk too loud or yell too loud or even drop a weight, this alarm will beep across the entire gym, basically telling you to not do that, and you can actually get escorted. I got kicked out of a Planet Fitness one time because I was quote unquote grunting a little too hard. So I think this idea of inclusive gyms can kind of be taken to an extreme at some point, but at the same time, I also think it's an important thing to consider that we do need to have them a little bit better, finding that fine line of what gym's good for a beginner and also what's too much, what's a little bit overbearing. I forgot another thing with Planet Fitness too. Sometimes they'll have pizza and donuts for the members after they work out. So that's kind of like, again, a double-edged sword of like, yeah, we want people coming in, we want them to be included, but like, at what line do we draw here? Clearly, they are a little more on the let's just get people in line, but I think there is something to be said about trying to make the gyms more inclusive towards others. And today is the best day to start working out. The next best day was actually yesterday, but go ahead and start working out today. Some of the benefits that you can get today from working out, literally if you go and did a small workout today, improved boost in mood. So you're going to have a very large increase in your mood. You're going to have improved energy. You're going to have better confidence of yourself throughout the rest of the day. That's literally from today. Long term, improved mobility, improve strength and muscle. You can also improve your blood work and, of course, body composition. So if you're trying to make your overall body look better, we know doing this through physical activity is a great way to do it. And if you're just getting started in 2023, one of the best tips is to just start. Go downstairs right now, wherever you're at, and look up 10-minute workout on YouTube, 10-minute at-home workout. Do as much as you can. Do as much as you can of that 10-minute workout. Maybe you only do half of it, but do something small. Literally get on YouTube, type in at-home workout. You can do this today. I would mention the fact that most gyms... Oh, that is true. That is true. Yes. So when first starting out in a lot of times in the New Year's, a lot of gyms have free trial memberships, especially for the first month. I actually was just talking about Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness is usually one of the places that does this, but that goes to a lot of places, you know, whether you get your first month covered, whether you get your initial activation fee covered. There's a lot of good reasons now, and just get started. So another good tip, make some small changes. It doesn't have to be crazy. One of the examples I always use for people making small changes is maybe you don't go to the gym right now, and a small change could be you literally go to the gym and walk for 5 minutes on the treadmill. That's it. You're trying to build some momentum. You're trying to build some small habits and stuff that you can ultimately build long term. That's kind of the idea with all of this. Don't stress out over the little things, and specifically, don't stress out over slip-ups. Slip-ups happen to literally everyone, and if you are somebody who is consistently staying on top of your physical activity, staying on top of all your different health promoting behaviors, it doesn't really matter if you slip up, and it doesn't really matter all these specific details. I'll have so many people come up to me and they'll say, what's the best diet and what's the best exercise and this and that. And it's like, all of them are great and all of them are bad. Which ones are you going to do that are going to... So you got to think about exercising from the opposite spectrum as just like if you are healthy for one day and you do health promoting behaviors for one day, that's not going to make you healthy. Just like how being consistent, or just how messing up one day isn't going to make you unhealthy. So doing healthy stuff for one day doesn't make you healthy, just like not being healthy for one day doesn't make you unhealthy. It's the same thing for even a week or so. When you're first starting out, don't stress out over those small things. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed this. We'll catch you in the next one. I did link below chair yoga workouts if you're looking for something that's going to improve your mood, flexibility a little bit. Kind of mental health was a big thing we talked about in this podcast. But start your workout today, go get it, and we'll see you next time.